I know. When we do our dissection and open up the frog and look at the organs, we're going to see that the organs are very similar to a human, that they are basically in the same spot in a frog that they would be in a human. Now the sizes might be a little different, okay, and the shape of some of them is a little bit different. There are a few organs a frog has that a human doesn't, but overall they're pretty close to the organs that you're going to find in a human. Here's a little diagram, and you're going to get another copy of this for tomorrow. But you'll see if you look at that list, those are almost all things that you should be familiar with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about the function or ask you some questions about the functions, and then also show you what it's going to actually look like when you're looking at it inside of the frog, to kind of give you a preview so you know what you're seeing over the next couple days. So starting off with the liver as the first organ. What does the liver do? Does anybody remember a function of the liver? Alex?
Doesn't it produce bile?
Yeah, it produces bile, and it also helps to filter the blood. Good. And the liver is really easy to see in the frog. It'd also be easy to see in a human. It's one of the largest organs. It's very obvious. When you open up your frog, the very first organ you're going to see is going to be the liver. So here's a frog that's been opened up, so you can see some of the organs inside. Okay. And if you see this metal probe here, that's touching the liver. This sort of grayish thing, and this grayish thing, and this grayish thing, they're all sections of the liver. The liver has different sections to it. In a frog, it has 3 sections, and that's what it looks like. The gallbladder, does anyone remember the function of the gallbladder? Yeah, the bile that's made in the liver gets sent to the gallbladder to be stored. In the frog, it's a little bit hard to find it sometimes. I'll help you with it this week. But the gallbladder is sort of hiding underneath the liver. So what you see here, this probe is holding up one of the lobes of the liver, and the gallbladder is a little sort of circular organ under here. Now, I don't like this picture that much because of the color. On the frogs that you're going to be dissecting, it's almost always greenish yellow. It looks like if you were to take a pea and squeeze out the inside and you just have that like shell left, it looks like that. Okay? It's about that size as well. So it looks like the shell of a pea, really. So that's the gallbladder right there. All right. Now, you're not really going to have to find it when we do our frog dissection, but there's also this tube called the bile duct that carries the bile from the gallbladder into the small intestine so that it can help to work with digestion. The heart of the frog, purpose is to pump blood. How many chambers would you expect to have in the heart of a frog?
4, 5, 2,
3.
Think back to when we studied mammals and reptiles. John?
3.5.
It has a 3-chambered heart, sorry. And so it's easy to see the chambers when you look at the frog's heart. The probe is touching the heart. You can see 2 chambers on top. Okay, that's the right atrium, left atrium, and this is the ventricle of the bottom. This whole thing is the heart. Okay, so it's just like above the liver when you look at the frog. The esophagus is a tube that leads from the back of the frog's mouth into its stomach, so that when the frog swallows its food, that food gets transported in the stomach. It's not very long in the frog, because their mouth is pretty close to the stomach. Ours is longer. And so if you look in the back of the frog's throat, okay, it's way, way in the back here. There's not really much to see here, but that's the beginning of the esophagus that would start moving that food into the stomach.
That's the mouth?
That's the mouth, like wide open, yes. Connected to the esophagus is the stomach. Stomach's job is to break down food, turn it into that liquidy soup called chyme. The frog's stomach is really easy to find. When you're looking at the frog, it's going to be sort of hiding beneath the liver on the left side of the frog's body. So this like banana-shaped thing here, that's the frog's stomach. And depending on the situation when your frog died, sometimes the stomach is swollen and really big, and there might be actually food inside of there. One of the parts of the lab, you're going to open up the stomach and see if there's any food in there. Sometimes people find insects in there. A few years ago, a student, like they opened up their frog and the stomach was huge. I knew it immediately. There's something big inside of it. When they had cut open the stomach, they found a whole intact crayfish inside of the frog's stomach. Frogs swallow their prey whole. They don't chew it up. So whatever they ate is going to be whole if they had food in
Was
the
it
stomach.
still alive?
No, it's that.
So,
Did they kill the frogs with straws?
Yes.
With water?
Probably a gas.
it's so sad.
So the stomach breaks down food, and the stomach leads into the small intestine. Now what happens, besides digestion, what else happens in the small intestine? Something important.
Most digestion.
Yeah?
You said.
Yeah, nutrients are absorbed. Excellent. So digestion happens, but also the nutrients from the food are absorbed in the small intestine. Now the small intestine is called small not because it's short, it's actually pretty long. It's called the small intestine because it's narrower than the other. The large intestine is much wider. And the large intestine's job is to absorb water. By the time the food has reached the large intestine, it's pretty much fully digested. Just about all the useful material have been absorbed. And so all that's left is to take some of the water out of that undigested material. So if we look at this, what is this part here? That's the stomach. You see here it leads into a smaller tube called the small intestine. It winds around. And then this probe is touching the large intestine. You see this tube that goes from very narrow here to all of a sudden much wider at the bottom. So that wider part is the large intestine. What part was this?
Liver.
Liver. How about that? Heart. Good.
Wait, how do you?
The cloaca, this is one that humans do not have. So in frogs, they have just basically one body opening that feces leaves the frog's body. Urine comes out of this. Sperm in males comes out of the cloaca. Eggs in the female come out of the cloaca. So it's basically like a kind of general purpose body opening for things leaving the frog's body. And the cloaca, sometimes it's not quite where people think it is. It's back here, so it's not directly between the legs like a lot of people think. It's actually back here a little bit, right there. That's it.
Why is his leg cut off?
Why is it what?
It cut off on his leg.
It's not. It's just maybe a strange angle. When you open up your frog, basically the organs aren't just kind of laying in there and sort of, they can't just slide around. They're all held together with this very, very thin sort of membrane. That membrane is called the mesentery. It's this transparent membrane that holds everything in place. there's a couple things. Christian?
It makes insulin.
Yeah, it makes insulin, and it makes also some digestive enzymes. Pancreatic juices is what we call them. Now the pancreas is not very large in the frog. It's kind of hard to see. What you see is, this is what part? Stomach, and then it turns into small intestine. Kind of attached between the two is the pancreas. It's this very web-like stuff that's in the curved part of the stomach. That's the pancreas. The spleen is an organ that helps to recycle red blood cells, destroys old red blood cells that are no longer used, recycles the material they're made out of. Spleen is kind of this little, it looks like a little red ball that's tucked back behind the digestive organs. So here, these forceps are holding the stomach up and out of the way. Here's the small intestine, large intestine. The spleen is a little circular red thing right in the middle there. That's the spleen. The lungs are present in the frog. Obviously, adult frogs have lungs rather than gills. They're adapted to doing what? What is the purpose of lungs? Yep, to breathe what? Air. So when they're tadpoles, frogs can breathe using gills, but those disappear, and they lungs form, which allow the frog to get oxygen out of the air and get rid of carbon dioxide. To find the lungs, you have to kind of go way in the back of the frog on either side of the heart. Now this is a frog when they've removed a whole bunch of organs to help see the organs that are farther back. So this frog doesn't have a stomach, small intestine, large intestine. They've been removed. And so way back here, these are the lungs. They're on each side with a little blackberry in this case. They're kind of spongy in texture. Once you know where to look, they're pretty obvious.
Are we going to have to remove the stomach?
Yeah, you're going to remove the stomach because you have to measure the small intestine length. You have to open up the stomach, see if there's any food in there.
Can we do all these things out?
Yes.
What happens if there's something in the frog's stomach? We keep that or we just...
No, we just check, sort of look at it. I try to identify what it is. The kidneys are really important for all organisms. They help to filter waste products out of the blood. Waste products that could be dangerous if they're to build up. The kidneys are another organ that's way in the back of the frog. You have to sort of move the other organs to find them. So again, this frog has no stomach or small intestine, large intestine. And way in the back, there's these reddish things. Those are the kidneys. This probe is touching the kidney. Kidneys also create urine. That's what they do with the waste. They turn it into urine. When they create the urine, they send it off to the urinary bladder to store it. You're not going to be able to see it probably in the frog. You're not going to be required to know it. If you get a female frog, it might have ovaries, which produce the eggs and also produce estrogen. Sometimes when we're dissecting frogs, people get the female, and it actually has eggs inside of it still. in the early spring before they release those eggs, their whole sort of body cavity fills up with them, and they sort of, you'll know, it'll be obvious because there's all these black things in there. They have sort of a spotted black color to them. So you might have a female, might have eggs in it. Or you might have a male that, so male has testes which produce sperm and testosterone. Which frog was usually bigger, do you remember? The female, yeah. The tube that carries the sperm out of the frog's body from the testes to the cloaca is called the sperm duct. It's the tube that carries the sperm cells. It's really, really small, but you can see it. So if you look at this frog, these are the testes, these yellowish things. And then connected is a very, very tiny tube that you kind of see coming down here. You could also see one over here. It's kind of very, very curly. Kind of looks like a single ramen noodle or something. But those are the sperm ducts. They take sperm from these testes and bring it out through the cloaca. Oviduct is similar to the sperm duct, but it's only the female, and it's the tube that carries eggs from the ovaries to the cloaca where they're released. And so if you do have a female, it might be filled up with these eggs. Here are oviducts without any eggs in them. Kind of look like mashed potatoes here. All this stuff is oviduct and all this stuff.
Yeah.
If there are eggs, they'll be filled up with these black
pop
fish.
it?
What?
Do you like pop it open?
Nope, that's what it looks like. It's just a long tube. The last few things, fat bodies. We talked about these when we talked about amphibians. Does anyone remember what fat bodies are?
Oh, yeah, they use it in like hibernation.
Yeah, they are when a frog has lots of food available, it takes extra energy that it gets and it stores it away in these organs called fat bodies. Because in the winter, when it's hibernating, it's going to need some stored up energy to get it through the winter.
Oh, isn't that what the camel has in on his back?
Not quite. Camels have, they store water in their body tissue. The fat bodies store energy. So mammals are different because mammals don't have fat bodies. Mammals have what we call subcutaneous fat. We have a layer of fat between our skin and our muscle, and that's where we store energy. In frogs, it's inside of their abdomen and these things. They're very easy to see. They're bright yellowish orange in color. If your frog was doing well and had lots of food, it'll have a lot, like this frog. All these orange things that look like carrots, those are fat bodies. That's stored energy. Is anybody in band? Band here at school? No. Anyone ever heard? So, Tympanum. If you were in band, you might know there's a big drum called the tympani, if you've ever heard of that. The tympanum is the frog's eardrum. And it's a little different, its location is different than it is in a human. Where is our eardrum?
In our head.
Yeah, inside like our skull, like inside your ear, if you follow your ear way deep in there, that's your eardrum. And as your eardrum moves back and forth when you hear sound, and that causes nerve impulse that goes to your brain. Well, frogs have their eardrum right on the outside of their body, on their skin, and it's called the tympanum. They don't have an external like ear cartilage ear like we do, or lots of other animals. So behind this frog's eye, this round organ, that's the tympanum. That's their eardrum.
Do they only have one?
No, I have one on each side.
So weird.
When I was in Costa Rica last week, we saw poison dart frogs, pretty cool. Tree frogs,
Oh, I would catch a trick frogs in the
can't keep them, but they're pretty cool.
I would keep it. Wait, those aren't poisonous, right?
They are poisonous. Well, which one? Frogs? The frogs we're gonna dissect?
No, the tree ones.
Yeah, the poison dart frogs are venomous. Yeah.
Those are the tree frogs.
No, tree frogs are different. Poison dart frogs are different.
No, I
Tree
know.
oh yeah, tree frogs are not. The last thing is this nictitating membrane. That's another thing that humans don't have. It's a third eyelid.
Oh, is that so you
Oh,
see
this,
like
yeah.
predators better?
Not
In the
quite for
water.
predators, yeah, it's for seeing in the water. Okay? It's like a clear eyelid that can close that allows them to sort of protect their eye, kind of like goggles. You can see here, this is the membrane, it's like half closed, and it's transparent so it can close all the way and the frog can see well underwater. Yeah, it's like a contact in their eye.
Wait, how do they stay up there for so long?
Well, they use less oxygen because they're cold-blooded, and they can also absorb oxygen through their skin, so they don't have to necessarily breathe as much. So those are a couple things they can do. All right, and so those are the organs of the frog. As I said, most of them are also found in humans, and the ones that are found in humans do the exact same thing in frogs as they do in humans. So by us studying these frogs over the next couple of days, we're going to be able to learn about human anatomy as well. Are there any questions about any of the organs or what they look like? All right, well, give you your homework. I think it's going to be pretty easy for you. You know, a little time. I also have a quiz I'm going to hand back.